U.S. President Donald Trump said Tuesday he would not meet Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, but signaled he was open to a future meeting despite simmering tensions over Tehran's nuclear deal. Washington and Tehran have been increasingly at odds since May, when President Trump pulled out of the 2015 international nuclear deal with Iran and announced sanctions against the OPEC member. The accord, negotiated under former U.S. President Barack Obama, lifted most international sanctions against Iran in exchange for Iran curbing its nuclear program. On Monday, Rouhani said Tehran would not talk to Trump until the U.S. returned to the 2015 deal. Trump wrote in a Twitter post, quote, "Despite requests, I have no plans to meet Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Maybe someday in the future. I am sure he is an absolutely lovely man," end of quote. Tensions have been rising after a deadly attack on a military parade in southwestern Iran in which 25 people were killed. The supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, said Monday the attacks had been paid by U.S. allies Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, and that Iran would severely punish those behind the bloodshed. Now, for more on the ongoing United Nations General Assembly, I'm joined by VOA UN correspondent Margaret Bashir. Margaret, another warm welcome to you today. Perhaps of greater interest during President Donald Trump's address to the UN today was his stand about the International Criminal Court, which Africans too have mixed reactions about.
Yeah, I think President Trump said that the court lacks authority, jurisdiction, and legitimacy. And those are really strong words. They follow his national security advisor, John Bolton, who said something similar about a week ago. But having it come from the president at this forum, it's really powerful. And I think it's good news for warlords and dictators around the world who are in fear of the court. How much of a deterrent will the court be now if you know that the biggest power in the world doesn't support it? And I don't think that the United States was ever a great supporter of it, but it didn't obstruct it either. So this is it's not a state party to the court, and it's not been a promoter. And during the Bush administration, it didn't join the court. But it's not obstructed international accountability, and this is a problem because now the Security Council here is looking at issues such as chemical weapons in Syria, the exodus of the Rohingya from Myanmar. What is the mechanism going to be for accountability on these things if the United States could possibly veto any referrals to have these things sent to the criminal court?
I'm sure we'll be hearing more reactions from African leaders as well as activists who will be saying, well, they have different views about the International Criminal Court. But Margaret, the president also had strong words about the Iranian leadership.
He did, not unexpected. In fact, perhaps not as strong as anticipated. We didn't know if the Iranian president might be the new rocket man for this year. So the fact that he said that the Iranian regime is a corrupt dictatorship was actually pretty calm language for him. And he urged international leaders to isolate Iran so that they would get their bad behavior under control and stop meddling, for instance, in Syria and Yemen and Lebanon. So that was really the scope of his comments on Iran. And he again disparaged the 2015 nuclear deal, which the United States withdrew from in May.
Now, Margaret, again, the American president also stood firm about his America First policy, and he also spoke about international trade reforms. What was the reaction of world leaders?
Yeah, so I think that was a mixed message. It was both for China and for his base voters here in the United States, because we're coming into the midterm election season in November. So he wanted American workers to know that he has their back and that he's protecting them from unfair or imbalanced trade practices. And he basically accused China of being a big abuser of world trade guidelines in order for them to get the best deals. So he was trying to tell his middle-class Americans, I'm looking out for you. So we'll see. We've heard from a few other world leaders this morning. President Trump is usually the second leader to speak. He was a bit late getting here this morning, so he ended up missing his slot and being in the third slot. But we heard from Ecuador, which spoke before him, Brazil, the Brazilian president, very strong, saying we shouldn't be in a phase of isolationism, intolerance. He spoke about fair trade. President Macron of France was just speaking a moment ago. He was also speaking along similar lines. So I think the rest of the world is talking about multilateralism when the United States is taking a more isolationist approach.
Margaret, thank you so much. We look forward to another discussion tomorrow.
Thank you, Esther.
Right. VOA UN correspondent Margaret Bashir reporting live from New York.